But all that shall subside if you only stop and hear everything I have to say, for you now are drawing near. Loads of Astroneer wisdom to make you think clear, huh? Even if you've been playing a year, there's still so much to learn. You should start right here. Should you want to have it all, you'd be wise to prepare for top 5 game-changing strategies regarding Astroneer.
In no
Shut up!
Look at this fool! He uses trad resource items in order to get the bytes he needs. Doesn't he know there's a better way, even in the early game? Allow me to introduce you to the concept of bytes trails. Not a soul in the Astroneer community is unaware of how powerful these bytes are in the first layer of Glacios caves. And if you didn't know that, you haven't watched enough of my channel yet, so go on ahead and accomplish such a thing once you're done here. Yoke. Now, as I was saying, these are known to be wicked neato. Something less known, however, would be that they respawn. You may have known that also, though. But even if you knew all that, there is a strategy that you may not have thought of yet. And that would be running a line of tethers past these samples with the intention of coming back later on the same tether line to get them again since they respawn. This is more efficient than it may seem because they respawn pretty quickly. And if you run enough tethers, I usually do 8 stacks to fill up my backpack perfectly, you can get quite a bit of bytes. In fact, 8 stacks of tethers allows you to get a whole 8,000 plus bytes each time you run the whole trail. Look at this fool! He uses a mass collection of resources when going to other planets in order to set up a base from which to gather resources. But what if, however, there was a better way in the early game? We only have this ghetto storage slot through which to bring what we need along with our backpack. Super ideal would be if we didn't need to bring base building materials to other planets at all before obtaining the large shuttle. And so thus, there is a way. Nomad Gathering. But world-class jerk, what is Nomad Gathering? Well, I'm glad you didn't ask. Nomad Gathering is landing on a planet with nothing at all except for storage on your shuttle and taking your shuttle with you to get resources, making your shuttle something of a portable oxygenator that doesn't cost 10,000 bytes. Now it's time to answer the question of literally why though? After all, it's not all that annoying to make a base on another planet. But actually you're wrong. It is annoying to make a base on another planet using only the storage you have with the small shuttle compared to if you had a large shuttle. This is the entire basis of Nomad Gathering. You are to understand that it isn't a permanent solution. It's just a way to get you to the large shuttle so you can use that to bring base building materials instead of the small shuttle with its minute storage. That being said, there are a couple of tips regarding this concept of taking your shuttle with you everywhere that you may find useful. First and foremost, you cannot walk while holding it. Seemingly, this means you have to move it while sitting still, take a few steps. Move it while sitting still, take a few steps. Repeat the cycle until suicide sets in. No. What you can do, alternatively, is move forward and jump. Following said jump, while you're still in the air, pick up the rocket. This way you will be moving while you're holding it because you cannot be forced to sit still when you have a mid-air velocity in the forward direction. So basically run and jump, but only pick up the rocket during jumps. This allows you to maintain a traversal travel that is an endeavor throughout the turf. One last thing, since this section of the video is already longer than it should be, is that if you want to do this in the late game by any chance, you can hold your rocket while on a hoverboard or while using jetpacks without any speed debuff, allowing for beyond light speed Nomad Gathering. Don't do this, however, because in the late game this is kinda useless. You can just make a base on every planet instead. Look at this fool! When he needs resources, he goes to get them. What if, my fellow jerks, there was a way to do such a thing without doing such a thing? The answer is yes, and that would be vast automation. Now there are tons of aspects to automation in Astroneer, but this particular segment of the video is referring to specifically the auto extractor. This is yet another thing that everyone knows about, like a lot of things covered in this video. However, also like those other things, just because the existence of this item is well known, doesn't mean the best way to use it is. First things first though, just in case you don't know what the auto extractor is, it simply gathers resource deposits for you. That being said, the reason it's good, despite doing a very simple job over an unnecessarily long period of time while being expensive to no end, is because it multiplies the amount of resources gotten from said deposit by a whopping 15 times compared to what you would have gotten with the terrain tool. So you get 15 times as much by using the auto extractor instead of the terrain tool. Pretty simple, right? All you have to do is put it on a bunch of stuff and call it a day. Well, no. There are two things you need to understand before using the auto extractor in order to fully benefit from it. The first and most important rule of the auto extractor is that there are certain resources you should never use it on. Those will be shown on screen now. So, Why avoid these with the auto extractor? Well, that's because you're better off getting every single one of these with either scrap in the trade platform or soil in the soil centrifuge due to how incredibly cheap they are in one of those two. The second rule of the auto extractor is that you shouldn't necessarily get a resource on a planet just because it exists on said planet. So what do I mean by that? Well, every planet except for Aatrox has what are called primary and secondary resources. Primary resources are more abundant on each planet, so you would only want to use the auto extractor to get a resource if you're on a planet where that resource is a primary resource if you want to get the most out of your auto extractor. So how do we know what is a primary resource on each planet versus what's a secondary resource? Well, primary resources are the resources listed as the cave resource of a given planet in the Astropedia. That doesn't matter though, because I made a chart. This chart shows you the best planet for every resource you should use the auto extractor on. Look at this fool! He gathers scrap by roaming about in a rover and picking up whatever he can find for the shredder. How can it be that he doesn't know of a superior method? Well, I, for one, know of two superior methods. Mass soil or mass astronium. And so yes, that's why I listed these as the same strategy. No matter which one you prefer, they are both for the same reason. We're turning them into scrap. Now scrap is great because it can be turned into any resource that isn't a gas. So basically what's happening here is you can get nearly anything from astronium or soil alone with the proper setup. For astronium, things are very simple. We put an auto extractor on an astronium deposit and train that up to your base. At your base, have a trade platform that's separate from your normal trade platform because we need it for turning astronium into scrap. For in this trade platform, we press the down arrow to access the second menu of trading that lets us get solid fuel jump jets from astronium. Now we make it so the astronium automatically comes into this trade platform, but we also have to automate this trade platform because otherwise that defeats the purpose of automating this trade platform, which is very annoying to explain, so hold on tight for this one. We take a large platform B and put the trade platform on it. We put a medium storage on one side and flatten it because we're not psychopaths. We put glow sticks on the other side just to take up space because that's all they're good for. Now we obtain a count repeater set to 2, a storage sensor, and a button repeater. We use the button repeater to halfway activate the count repeater, then we get rid of it because that's all we need it for. We stack the count repeater on top of the storage sensor and place the storage sensor on the medium storage. It has to be on the medium storage. It cannot be on the large platform B. Don't screw this up. We set the storage sensor to empty or not empty, then we connect the count repeater to the trade platform. Easy. And so now, when we get enough astronium on the platform, it will automatically bring back our desired item. As mentioned before, that's going to be solid fuel jump jets. So now we have auto armed scrap those. And that's finally it. We just turned our astronium into scrap. This method yields a whopping 3 scrap for each astronium. Next up is turning our soil into scrap though, but fear not my children, this one is far simpler. We put a large platform B with a soil centrifuge and a spot for us to place a medium soil canister from our rover. On this side, we put a small printer and a small canister, which is used to automatically take soil from the medium canister to the soil centrifuge. The soil centrifuge will be set to automatically craft resin. The small printer will be set to automatically craft canisters from said resin. Make sure it crafts the canisters onto a storage of at least 8 slots though, because if they have the ability to craft straight onto the ground, that gets spooky freaky while you're outside of render distance, and we don't like spooky freaky. The canisters will go straight from said storage into a scrapper. A scrap. This method yields 1 scrap for every small soil canister worth of soil. Thus, a medium soil canister holds 24 scrap worth of soil, and a rover of this configuration can carry 576 scrap worth of soil. This segment of the video was long. Look at this fool! He goes AFK on Aatrox that he may receive helium in large quantities over the course of the next hour. However, what if you could always have helium, or any other gas, available to you at all times without ever having to wait? I now present to you the concept of atmospheric outposts. This is exactly what it sounds like. You make a miniature base dedicated to obtaining whatever gas you need. Now the reason this is so overpowered is because it's so easy to accomplish. You just need solar or wind, and you don't even need enough to fully power the atmospheric condenser, as it doesn't have to be anywhere near full power to obtain what you need, because you're going to be away while it's gathering, meaning it doesn't need to be fast. Which brings me to the next part that really makes this good. It works outside of render distance. This means you can leave an atmospheric outpost on a planet and come back hours later to tons of gases if you use the appropriate storage. That being said, what's a good and convenient setup for this? Well, I prefer this design. It allows you to power the condenser for the remarkably cheap price of 8 ceramic, which only costs 3 soil canisters worth of soil to make. It also allows you to store 160 of whatever gas you have the condenser set to as well, and is very cheap to set up. Speaking of, you only need Silva, Aatrox, and Glacio to gather all gases in the game. Since your main base is probably on Silva, that means you only have to venture to 2 other planets, and not very often, in order to get tons of every gas in the game after having this set up. You can also get every gas in the game from Visenya and Aatrox alone. So if your main base is on either of those, you only have to travel to the other to get what's left. And so that's it, my children. If you follow all of these tips, you will master all 3 branches of Astroneer with remarkable ease. Rhymes with cheese.